what would you say to someone that feels like they can do more? They want to take on more leadership roles, but they are hesitant.
The version of Tabitha like 10 years ago would have been like, let's go. We've got this. Let's just do all the things. The Tabitha today would ask you a million questions.
Mhm.
I think you got to figure out why you're not. That's the thing I had to figure out because it
Mhm.
isn't just climbing the ladder, it's where you're going and what you're doing with your time. And when you care about that and you want to understand that more, you start to evaluate, why are you hesitant?
This is Journey to Point B, where you can find success stories of people who have achieved the same goals you're striving for. I'm your host, Lucia Csoma, and it's my hope that these stories will provide motivation for your own journey to Point B. Tabitha, it's such an honor to have you on the show today.
Thank you.
I I know a little bit about you, that you are the CEO of a wonderful company in here in Austin. And
Yes,
what I know about it is that you've been with this company for over 18 years.
that's
But
right.
what's more interesting is that you became the CEO during the pandemic. That's the
Yes.
time where, from what I know, is that's the time where people didn't want to take responsibility, didn't want to take anymore, like they wanted to actually get out. And I can only uh, imagine what went through that decision for you to get to that decision. So I'm so excited about getting into those details, learning from you, get inspiration from your journey to this place. I know that a lot of our listeners and clients that I work with, they are very interested in what is someone's climb on the corporate ladder. And you are the best example for that. So I'm going to
Thank
stop here.
you.
I'm going to ask you, tell us, what was the beginning of this journey, Tabitha?
Oh my gosh. So, yeah, like you said, 18 years with this company, but I believe it is a culmination of my whole life. Um, you know, I have always been put in leadership positions. I mean, from being the oldest of four siblings
Ooh.
to, team captain, playing basketball growing up. Um, you know, Jobs that I've had, I quickly into them will find my leader, my boss, giving me opportunity to do more or influence others or manage others. And it's always just kind of been this tap on the shoulder that I've gotten from just doing what was instilled in me at a young age, which was just hard work. If you work hard, opportunities will come a knocking, and they did
Mhm.
all the time. And so, really, I think it's always been there, kind of naturally. But in the last, I would say 5 years of my life has been really figuring out, is that what I want? And not
Mhm.
just what people I trust and believe in what they see in me. I realized eventually you have to believe it yourself and want that thing too. So that's been a big life journey to get to this point for sure.
Mhm. Tell me, what was the first position that you had in this company, Tabitha?
Yeah. So this company is actually, been around for over 30 years. And they started as a mom and pop shop in the New England states, and they decided to launch their services in the state of Texas. And I happened to be the first employee that they hired. So my
Mm.
first position was basically selling vaporware. We didn't even have a product. I was in my early 20s. I had learned at this point that, hard work and a good company, that pairing would equal success for me. And so I found a lot of core similarities with the company. And so I started as like a hybrid of a sales rep to account management. If we signed on a contract, I was to make sure that they got stellar experience, and made sure and anything we needed to do, we could meet their needs. So that's how I got my start.
Mm. And you said that 5 years ago is when you felt like, okay, let me see if this is what I want, not just what people see in me. And I'm
Yeah.
curious, like, what helped you realize that this is what you
Mm.
want?
Yeah. It was actually a job change. I had been with the company at that point. It was coming up on 15 years, and the company had opened up its own private equity firm,
Mm.
where they were going to start more small businesses and build them up, because the business I was working for was experiencing phenomenal success. And as per usual, I got tapped on the shoulder by my boss to help support the growth of the private equity side. And I, at this point in my career, my life, I had gotten to follow in fantastic leaders, coaches, bosses, all of it, and didn't have any, real negative history of following their lead. And so I did. I made a change from really managing the business that I'm in today, but I started out in, and went and helped the private equity side. And all of a sudden, I something was stirring for me, and I couldn't understand it. It was this like kind of gut that was saying, I don't know that I like what I'm doing, and that's weird for me. I've been tapped on the shoulder. My boss believes in me, but I wasn't enjoying what I was doing. And
Mm.
that sent me down a rabbit hole of all kinds of reasons that had to be my problem, not anyone else's. And it at this point, I'm in my late 30s, and I have a lifetime of making certain decisions for other people. And now here I am wrestling with, am I about to try to make a decision that is different than what my boss, my leader, my coach may want? And that's really where it started, was figuring out what was I experiencing and how do I name it. That was the biggest challenge.
Mhm. And what were some things that helped you overcome that challenge?
Yeah. Oh my gosh. I remember a very pivotal moment. At this point, I knew I was acting out. I wasn't being the person that I was used to being. I'm the person who rallies. I come with energy and excitement on what we're doing, and I love to roll up my sleeves and do the work. It's my favorite. It feels like that's my version of like building authentic bonds with people you work with. And I was finding myself hesitant. I was finding myself frustrated, and not wanting to give in, even a sense of exhaustion going to work in the morning. I was like, why can't I get going? There's not enough coffee that's helping me. um, but I was doing a lot of self work. Was starting to try to figure out what was going on, and I wasn't really sharing it with other people at this point,
Mhm.
um, and I didn't know how to. And so, one really pivotal moment was one of the companies we were starting happened to be a leadership consulting company. And we were really practicing with the service that we wanted to offer. And so I was one of the leadership coaches from the business. And so we had some pro bono clients that we were practicing with. And it was when I met a nonprofit organization here in the Austin area, Catalyst Collective. And what they specialize in is helping people connect to their identity and purpose. And so,
Mm.
my job was to help them figure out how to grow their business, grow their culture of their employees to the culture that they wanted. But in order for me to help with them, I needed to understand the product. And so, like I do, I need to roll up my sleeves. I need to get to know it, right? And so they came in, and basically perform the service that they offer, which is their purpose project. And it's kind of like taking all of the personality tests that you take and analyzing that data, but they do it face to face with you in a way that helps you hear from somebody that you're connecting with and that you can trust, is sharing with you words that best represent how you show up in the world. And
Mm.
again, late 30s, I'm experiencing this. And we start writing out these words that finally started to define what I was thinking or believing about myself, but wasn't fully living into because I
Mm.
didn't know how to articulate who I was. And it opened the door to everything. I mean,
Oh.
I remember at the end of that session, all of a sudden knowing I now know how to look at every single day and say every task I'm doing, every meeting I'm going to, what I do when I get home and how I spend time with my family, how to live into my full potential because I understand myself better. And that for me was, and kind of funny, the catalyst to my.
Yes. Yeah.
I think that was a big milestone for me. But another one was, what did fear look like for me? Um,
Mm.
how does fear show up in my life? Because I love watching movies and I love watching scary movies.
Ooh.
Right? But fear for me isn't, hiding in a fetal position in a dark room or,
Mm.
throwing the sheets over my head and hiding out. I needed to understand what fear looked like because once I had better understood how to define myself, I then needed to realize in order to live out that every single day, there are going to be barriers and obstacles in my way. And what are the things that are they're causing me to retreat from my full potential? And I learned a lot about what fear looked like for myself as well.
Wow, there are so many things that I want to touch up upon what you shared. Yeah, so first it's like what I see is that you were this person that would just say yes to opportunities that sounded okay. You were a hard worker,
Mhm.
but it took a while for you to really connect with who you are. And only when you connected with who you are, what's your purpose? How do you show up in the world? What is your purpose in this world? Only then things started to change and maybe like start molding, taking shape in your life. That's so beautiful. That and how it's interesting how sometimes these things they're not planned. No, you just said, okay, let me understand this business, let me understand this organization, and the surprise that was there was amazing.
Yes.
uh, at the same time, I'm very curious about fear.
Mm.
Curious, how did fear manifest in your career? Yeah.
Yeah, so, I was helping on the private equity side, and I was just now starting to really realize what I wanted to do with my time. And it was actually working in the business that I started in. I was good at that business. I knew it. I knew how to help people grow in that business. I understood the customer and I loved the
Mm.
customer. And I felt this connection. But what was different is my boss, my coach, my leader wasn't tapping me on the shoulder and saying, "Hey, go do that." I knew that
Mhm.
he wanted me to help with what he was working on, but I was stirring towards something greater for myself. And it was through understanding what I wanted. But I couldn't articulate that because fear was showing up. I didn't jump to, oh, this is the position I want. I was willing to be an entry level position, but I wasn't quite fighting for the CEO slot. And I wanted to
Mhm.
figure out why, because there would be conversations around opportunities for leadership. And I wasn't saying, oh, that's me, that's me. I was hoping someone else would say something.
Mhm.
And that's when I started to really figure out what was happening for myself. And I learned that I was actually experiencing my version of fear and what it looked like and what it still looks like today. My life journey now is to shorten the timeline by which I recognize fear and react, right? And so, but my version of fear actually starts out with like rejection of the truth of what's happening, right? So, an
Mhm.
example might be, oh, that's just a rumor. You hear something and you just blame it on, oh, that's not real. You just kind of let it go. You don't even let it really sink in what's happening. Um, then it kind of moves into, if it's sticking around, then it moves into like deflection. Oh, well, that must be someone else's problem. So and so needs to deal with that, right? Um, and then as it continues to stick around, I move to anger. And
Mhm.
anger is, why do I have to deal with this? Why do I have to do this? And it's in the anger moments that I tend to act out. And you can hear it in my tone, my body language. Like you can tell that I've entered into that phase. And the last few years, the thing that has, really changed everything for me is having a few very key and important people in your life that know you very well, meaning you don't omit anything about your life and how you react to things, so that when they tell you something, they have all the information to give you honest feedback. That has been the game changer. It is so simple. It could be, hey, I recognize that you're a little frustrated about this, Tab. What's going on for you? And then all of a sudden it's like, oh, I'm just throwing a pity party. I am destined to solve this problem. I have the energy,
Mhm.
the confidence, the readiness to step in, because technically what's actually been going on ever since the first thought or dismissiveness of it being a rumor, I've been planning, I've been preparing, and now I'm ready. And so defining how fear shows up helps me realize that it's the thing that I actually need to do. Most things in life that I've experienced, when I've gotten that fear feeling, I am pretty confident that is the thing I need to walk towards. And this position of CEO was, for me, the latest experience of, yeah, this is the position for you. So, what is the thing that is keeping me from moving forward? And fear was it. And I recognized it. And now I had to overcome the hardest challenge, which was actually just speaking up for myself, actually saying
Mhm.
the thing that I needed to say. So, yeah.
As you were sharing about the fear, like the first instinct is like not my problem. I had this image of the ostrich that the way they deal with fear is they put their head in the sand, and they're like,
Mm.
I'm pretending nothing happened. But it seems like as you are having your head in the sand, you are still processing.
Oh, yeah.
You're just like things are going to your mind. And how important is to start getting aware about
Mm,
what is going on, whether that comes from, because sometimes we can recognize it, but also having some voices that we can trust, and some voices that are taking even the risk to tell us, hey, I see this in you. And sometimes it's a risk. It's not always safe to do that, but how wonderful is to have those trusted voices. So
absolutely.
what
Yeah,
was the
they
voice that helped you in terms of you taking the role of leadership of CEO?
Yeah, it's interesting you say it can be risky for the person who's gonna speak up. I could not agree more, especially, for someone like me who's in an anger phase. You don't wanna
Yeah,
start like, "Hey, let me
exactly.
pause on that emotion." Yeah, it is, and I think that's what makes the relationship so beautiful and so magical. And there's not a whole lot of people that you can count on with that level of vulnerability. But it was a game changer for me. Um, but ultimately, to take that the biggest step that I knew was going to be the hardest, and that was telling the person that I've been following for at that point 15 years that I wanted to do something different than what he was tapping me on the shoulder for. I had gotten enough courage to lean into who I was from my network, from my community. And so the thing that it was going to take for me to actually speak up for myself was purpose. That this thing mattered bigger than the fear of telling my boss something personal. It got bigger. Every day I didn't do it, the emotion on the other side of not moving towards my destiny, um, it that emotion outweighed, and eventually,
Mhm.
you just say it. And it was magical and beautiful and everything that you would hope from someone that you follow for so long, that they react the opposite of all the negative things you've told yourself.
Mhm.
It was an incredible experience and one I'll forever remember.
Yes. Yes, and it's so interesting how we make those assumptions, and
Mm,
those assumptions keep us stuck. Like
yeah.
one recent client of mine was very very upset that the boss would not promote her, and
Mm.
she had all these assumptions that they don't see her value and all that, and all she needed was a conversation. And once they had that conversation, they started the promotion, the process immediately. Looking back in the fear and the assumptions and the hesitation to take this role, how do you see yourself now?
I've gone through a journey of really processing back, and it's just one of those things where, man, just living is the fastest path to wisdom. There's
Mhm.
no replacing the time that it takes and the experiences of life to learn who you are and to figure out what matters most to you. And so I am beyond thankful for the life that I've lived and what it will bring for the future. But self awareness and self reflection are the key to beginning this. The more you understand yourself, the more you believe in yourself, and when necessary, have people that can affirm the direction you're going. It just, man, success is forever in your future.
Yeah. Yeah. You mentioned something earlier in our conversation that I kind of wanna go back. You mentioned being a hard worker,
Mm,
like putting in the work. And I'm
mm,
just curious, what is your definition? If someone would ask you, someone that you would mentor, like Tabitha, what does it mean to be a hard
mm.
worker? I want to be a hard worker. What does that mean? What would you say to that?
Oh, wow. Okay. It looks different on everyone.
Mhm.
But for me, hard work is grit. It
Mm.
is truly understanding what needs to get done and the resiliency, um, the tenacity to just make it happen. And so to me, that represents hard work.
Mhm. Mhm. Yeah, that's
Mm,
beautiful.
thanks.
So I already got some milestones in your journey. I was just
Mm,
curious if there were any other things, other key moments in your journey that you think were helpful in where you are now.
mhm. Yeah, for me, the thing that seems to be on repeat now that I'm in this role, um, every day in a CEO position is a fire. Now, the size of
Mm.
that fire is subjective, but you run into them all the time. That's the role, is to uh, really take on kind of the whiplash of what can come to the organization so that your employees don't feel it, but that you take that on. And for me, the repeat is defining who I am and knowing who I am. Um,
Mhm.
Understanding how I respond to crisis, whether it's fear or, energizing people towards a goal. I cannot stress enough that the absence of knowing who I am today and believing who I am, I do not know if I would be experiencing the level of success that I'm having. And I'm defining success as I'm living authentically, transparently with the people that I care about, and
Mhm.
um, give everything to the people that roll up their sleeves for this organization. So I cannot stress enough self-awareness, and reflection and community. It just
Mhm.
that that's the recipe for me.
Yeah. Yeah. You mentioned your mentor a few times,
Yeah.
and it seems like he played one of the major roles in shaping and supporting in who you are today. And I'm curious, what are some lessons that you learned from him that you are uh, applying as a leader yourself now?
Yeah. I think it's really a culmination of everyone that I've chosen to give leadership duties to in leading me, because I've had managers, I've had bosses, I've had mentors, I've
Mhm.
had all different types of coaches as an athlete. But I really think the thing that I've learned the most, like really evaluating all of these things, is really how important it is to understand the value of what you're doing every single day. Being able to connect things to a greater purpose um, is so critical when time is precious.
Mhm.
And the thing that you don't fully appreciate as you're growing up is the value of time. And whether it's life circumstances or just wisdom over time, the value of time is the component that I look back on and say, every single day, am I pointing myself and people towards something that is worth the sacrifice of the other thing they're giving up, whatever that other thing is?
Mhm.
And that is the thing I appreciate from everyone that I've allowed to lead me in my life, is making the most of the moment that you're in. And I'm
Yeah,
very thankful for that lesson.
that's beautiful. Thank you for
Thanks.
sharing that.
Absolutely.
Tabitha, what would you say to someone that feels like they can do more? They want to take on more leadership roles, but they are hesitant. They have those assumptions. What would you say to them if you were to mentor them? How to how to climb up?
Well, the version of Tabitha like 10 years ago would have been like, let's go. We've got this. Let's just do all the things. The Tabitha today would ask you a million questions.
Mhm.
I think you got to figure out why you're not. That's the thing I had to figure out, because it
Mhm.
isn't just climbing the ladder, it's where you're going and what you're doing with your time. And when you care about that and you want to understand that more, you start to evaluate, why are you hesitant? Because just blaming it on fear, or, I don't think I'm going to be good enough, or whatever the reasons are you're telling yourself, there is way more to us than just that. There is a lot more underneath that deserves light and deserves to be evaluated, so that you figure out whatever else you're wanting to add to your plate, that it's the right thing towards what you want to do with your time. So yeah, I would ask a lot of questions to figure that one out.
Yeah, yeah, it goes back to what you said, self-reflection, self-awareness, like really connecting with what you want, what is that you want to create in your life. And then once you're clear about that, you will understand if you really want to do this or whatever that would look like to you, but getting clear in what is that you want. That's so
Oh,
wise.
oh
That's
yeah.
the Yeah. Thank you so much, Tabitha, for taking the time today to share your journey. I think it provides inspiration and information and a lot of insights even for me just interviewing you. It was beautiful. What I got, some things that stood out to me are like really defining what it means to be a hard worker,
Mm,
being open to opportunities are uh, that are available to us, but at the
mm,
same time also create our own opportunities, mentorship, and being willing to listen to the mentors in our life and do a lot of self-reflection and connecting with who we are and how do we want to show
mm.
up in the world, put ourselves out there. So wonderful. Thank you so
Um,
much, Tabitha. I really honored this
wow, thank
conversation.
you. Absolutely, my pleasure.
I hope this episode gave you some inspiration for reaching your goals. If you found it useful, please hit the subscribe button. This will help me bring you more inspirational stories to support your own journey to point B. Thank you.